Hey everyone, welcome back to part two of 16 Gigs of Learning, our summary of learning project for ECOMP 355. Last time we talked about some of the aspects of the course, the history of edtech, digital identity, and we left you with a quote on from Kevin Honeycutt. Our kids are growing up on a digital playground and no one is on recess duty. So that's going to take us to the next section, which has probably been the most substantial thing we've talked about, and probably the most important concept we could have learned during this course: digital citizenship.
So to sum up kind of what digital citizenship means, you can look at Mike Ribble's 9 elements to teaching digital citizenship, which provides the basis for how we can model and teach respectful and responsible online behavior. So the whole idea of it, the 9 elements, can be organized into 3 broad categories. The first one would be student learning and academic performance. So in this category, first is digital access, digital communication, as well as digital literacy. So this teaches students the importance of how and when to use technology and some of the inequities that are present because not everyone has a device, but those that do have constant access to the internet. The rules of communicating and interacting by email and text, even Snapchat and Facebook, and how this is different than face-to-face. Lastly, how to use critical thinking skills online. So teachers should teach their students this critical thinking in all classes because it is critical for students to learn to be smart consumers.
The second category is student environment and student behavior, and this includes digital safety and security, digital etiquette, and digital rights and responsibilities. This category is heavily related to the social justice component of our course. Students need to learn how to conduct themselves appropriately online because of the potential consequences involved if they don't. Cyberbullying is a big part of the etiquette, and how sometimes anonymity online produces rude comments and really, really hurtful, terrible things that you would not maybe see face to face. We want to be able to teach students how to address conflict, controversy, and oppression online and not contribute to that dominant discourse themselves. As a citizen, they have privileges and responsibilities that they need to be aware of.
And the third category would be student life outside the school environment. So these are the last 3 elements, which are digital law, digital health and wellness, and digital commerce. So outside the class, students are responsible for knowing the consequences of sending things that they don't belong to them and the legal aspects of doing so. It used to be that the internet was compared to the Wild West, but this is increasingly not so as governments begin to regulate and monitor what happens online. Students need to know that they should step away from technology and, maybe go run outside for a bit because there are health consequences to constantly using it. Lastly, students spending money online, so using maybe even like iTunes and apps, that kind of thing, they need to know the risks of fraud if they're buying things online from anything outside that they don't exactly know where it's coming from.
That brings us to EdTech tools and resources. So the second half of our course, we spent a lot of time talking about, or we had students presenting on resources. And some of the highlights of this included how to incorporate technology into the curriculum, which isn't always a simple task, because it's important to know how you can fit into what you're teaching, especially since we don't want to just substitute technology for traditional teaching.
We also learned about the pros and cons of each tool or resource. So this is part of building that confidence when using technology so that we know, what may happen and when we're using it and when and why it should be appropriate to use.
And of course, we also talked about using technology as an adaptation for exceptional learners. Can be a great tool for accommodating student needs that were otherwise not possible before. In my internship, one of those ones would have been like Dragon dictation software.
And even our Erasmus app was kind of nice for that as well. Next, we have our learning projects, which are more summed up in our own blogs. But just to talk about here, our learning projects were an interesting part of the course. It really puts us in the position of the student and how important clear instructions are to the students, as well as the content we choose should be engaging to them as well, because we should be finding things that they find closely relatable to them.
It also gave us a real new perspective on the digital world as like this endless well of knowledge and how you can teach yourself a new skill for very little money and at your own pace.
So where are we today? So we have this nice kind of picture of the 4 stages of teacher confidence in the use of technology. So we definitely began in the survival section of the picture. We're not really sure what we're doing.
We're scared of breaking it.
We're scared of breaking it, definitely. We think we should be using it, but we're not really sure how. So are we in this the next section, the mastery section? Probably not. Yes, we have received training. We're feeling a little more confident, but we have yet to really use these tools in the field.
Now, obviously, we want to reach the peak of that mountain, the innovation where we're creating stuff ourselves and again, redesigning, changing the game. But it's important for us to just keep climbing because learning is an ongoing process, right?
Next, we have a nice quote from an unknown author saying that technology will not replace teachers, but teachers who use technology will replace those who don't. This kind of is nice because I want to give credit for this next part to David Gunther, who is in our class. He commented one of my Google Plus posts about teachers becoming facilitators and technology taking over. He gave us a new perspective that I had never put into words quite like he had. In it, he said,
I value creativity, context, and critical thinking in students. While the internet can provide static answers, it cannot build relationships. The internet cannot ask a question to facilitate deeper thinking the same way a teacher can, because the internet does not know the student. The internet cannot push a student to think creatively about something they're already passionate about. The internet cannot deliver content based on the context of the individual. I think it really comes down to relationships. I would argue that a teacher who has built relationships with students can teach better than an expert teacher who is not. I think it's important to bring students to other resources as a facilitator, but I don't think there will ever be a day when the teacher is only a facilitator. Good instruction needs relationship, and the internet can't develop one.
So thanks, David, for that great insight. I definitely agree with you. So this is the end of our presentation. Although we finished the course, we are not done building our own personal learning networks.
For now, we're logging off, but we're not shutting down. Thanks for listening, you guys.